What up, my freaks? RuinousInsight here, welcoming you to my quick and dirty review for Total War Warhammer 3. Now, as a bit of a preface, I used to work in quality assurance. You might be surprised how many games out there have my name in the credits that no one in the history of gaming has ever read. Anyway, one of the interesting things about QA is you can pretty much always tell how a game would do on the market before its release. You could be testing for months and always knowing that the game would fail once it hit the shelves. And you also knew when games would succeed. And I can say without a doubt that Warhammer 3 is a success. It's polished, it's fun, it inspires that just one more turn feeling that developers desperately want to capture. It's clearly a labor of love from a lot of passionate people that have worked on this project. But that doesn't mean that there aren't flaws and polarizing aspects, and for me it's those extremes, positive or negative, that ultimately inform my decision as to whether to commit to a game. So the point of this review is to be to the point. Just deal with the big things. Basically, I'm going to have a quick go where I try to convince you to get the game, and then I'm going to try to convince you not to. I think the first thing is one that no one can argue against. The game is beautiful. It has fantastic, lovingly crafted models, effects, and animations. The battles, and what is Total War without battles, are bloody magnificent to behold. The battle maps are an absolute treat for the eyes, and the campaign map with its vibrant colors and constantly changing landscape is a really cool feature in its own right. Honestly, the whole thing is such a glorious spectacle that my face hurts from smiling after playing. But it's not just eye candy. One of, if not the best thing about Warhammer 3 is the streamlining of previously lacking features. Administration in the previous title gets extremely tedious from the mid-game on. When you spend 5 times as long on admin as you do fighting, you're not having that much fun. But that's kind of difficult to deal with. Logistics is a pretty big part of war, and you don't want to deprive the player of the choice of how to build their empire. Warhammer 3 handles this by adding a ton of quality of life updates that make the administration so much easier. Building on the Three Kingdoms system, dealing with items and ancillaries, for example, is now a breeze by comparison. Similarly, diplomacy, traditionally one of the weakest elements of Total War, has been improved. The super convenient quick deal feature, the allegiance and outpost features that allow you to cover the weaknesses of your roster, and the general value of diplomacy are all additions I don't think I could live without anymore. Diplomacy is still limited, but it's gone a long way, gotten a huge improvement, and is both easier to make use of and provides higher rewards than before. Finally, the new races and factions. There's not much to say here, they're pretty damn awesome. They have great variety and play very differently from each other, so you're gonna want to play them all. And definite bonus points for the lore and some terrific voice work. Also, a special mention to the customizable Demon Prince Lord. I think every single person adores this feature, and we're all praying that more customizable lords are added. I honestly think this is the way forward for all of Total War. So, coming off of all of that, how am I supposed to argue the opposite and try to convince you not to get the game? Well, let me give it the old college try. Did you like the Vortex campaign in Warhammer 2? Well, as far as short scenario-style campaigns go, Warhammer 3's own story campaign is pretty damn fun. Once or twice. But Total War, and Total Warhammer is no exception to this, is all about sandbox gameplay and replayability. The fact is, this suffers from the same thing as the Vortex campaign does. It puts you on the rails, crippling your decision-making and undermining your choice as a player. Conquest isn't even really necessary in the face of this inevitable mission. This is by far the biggest problem with this game, as it stands in contrast to the very best elements of Total War. Fortunately, this will be solved with Mortal Empire's integration. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to wait for it. The other problem is what has made me shut down the game when playing much more than anything else, though it is much more of an issue on higher difficulties, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. So small settlement battles have been reworked into these pseudo-sieges. Very fun at first, but come back and see me after you've fought 20 town battles for every one field battle. I personally prefer field battles, with battle lines clashing and lots of room to maneuver, but you're much less likely to encounter these when outside the realm of chaos. This is all compounded by the generally wonky nature of auto-resolve, which forces you to manually fight relatively pointless battles against extremely inferior forces or otherwise suffer massive casualties. Bonus points for the town battles having a lot of pathing issues. Your units will get stuck on curved roads around buildings and obstructions constantly. Look, if you don't like the Total War formula, you probably won't suddenly start to like it. Having said that, this is also probably the most likely title to change your mind. Warhammer 3 is doubtless the best Total War so far, and it's only going to get better with mods, updates, and Mortal Empires. This isn't a mediocre launch that will become great after years of updates. It's already pretty great. It's certainly good enough to keep you occupied screwing around until mods and Mortal Empires are ready to go and bring you the definitive experience. As such, I'm going to award it the highest grade that I can give a game. You don't need to wait for a sale, because it's worth the price.